Benjamin.
He's obviously he's a radio show host or something like that.
You're damn right I am.
Hey, no.
Hey everybody, I am laughing in this screen grab because I realized when I titled this stream, I titled it Late Next with Benjamin Dixon and not Late Night with Benjamin Dixon. But that's how you know I am tired as all get out. But welcome to everybody hanging out with me for a few minutes. We had some complications with getting home in time, and I'm streaming only via YouTube. So YouTube, you're the only ones that are getting this. Everyone else will get a rebroadcast or something, some version thereof. But thanks for joining us. I'm going to see if I can pull up the comments here because we're just going to have chat show live chat message. Yeah, I want to see some live chats. We're just going to have an open conversation. And what's hilarious, here's something that's hilarious. I pre-recorded almost an entire episode that I was getting ready to, even though I'm not a Patriot fan, Leslie, I'm a Saints fan. I lived in Massachusetts and in Boston for a long time, but I'm not a Patriots fan, never was. I digress. I had an entire episode that I pre-recorded ready to upload to you. And when I went back to play it and to listen to it, my microphone wasn't on. None of my bells and whistles, none of my claps and applauses worked and all that kind of stuff. Hilarious. It figures. So, but anyway, make sure you guys can hear. I want to make sure that you hear all of my special effects. Let me hear if you hear this.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
If you heard that, just give me a thumbs up and then we'll keep going because I want to make sure that you're hearing the high quality version of the Benjamin Dixon Show and not just a phone microphone, but. I recorded an entire episode, and instead of me trying to record it again, I figured I'll just go live and talk to you about it and get feedback from you on it live. I decided what I wanted to talk about. I'm stuck between two things that I want to talk about tonight. Well, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the Catalonia Conundrum, what's going on in Catalonia and with Spain, with the Barcelona government. And to me, it represents a very unique conundrum in that for leftists, particularly for leftists, because I always argue that there's a place in leftist thought where we run into this conundrum of using. So let's start here. Leftists, by definition, we're almost radical. We're radical. We are liberationists, no matter what. We're like always in the mindset of liberation. And what happens, though, when leftists get into power and they become the government, they now have the responsibility of running a government, yes, but they also have to address separatists, the possibility of separatists. So Catalonia represents a conundrum in the sense that the government that's trying to break away from it, Catalonia, rather, trying to break away from Barcelona, is a right-leaning government who espouses politics that we as leftists generally are completely opposed to. So Catalonia represents a conundrum in that regard because we look at these people who are fighting an oppressive government, and while the government that's oppressing them, quote unquote oppressing them, or at least suppressing their protests, that government is further to the left of the insurrectionists, of the separatists. And while the government the Barcelona government is not a leftist government, it still represents somewhat of a conundrum for us. And I really wanted to talk about that tonight for a little bit. But then I was also running it. Well, let me finish the conundrum. The conundrum is that as leftists, if we are governing, then we often have to engage in behaviors that are antithetical to our leftist thought. We're going to have to, leftist governments have to put down insurrections. That's like completely antithetical to what most leftists espouse themselves, consider themselves to be. So that's the Catalonia Conundrum, and I probably will pick up on that. I may finish that tonight, depending on how long we hang out. I can only hang out for a few minutes because, man, I am tired. I am about to pop. I got a headache that's pounding, and I'm about to pop one of these product placement. I don't get paid for it, but I'm about to pop one of these and let it kick in. But that's the conundrum number one. Then the other thing I was really doing today was some serious self-reflection. Pardon me for all the coughing. Some serious self-reflection on the amount that I covered Donald Trump. And it's not as though I'm having any type of crises, crisis of conscience or anything, because I do these type of reflections all the time. I just take a self-assessment and I do a spot check of myself. And I always go back to the document that I wrote for myself before I started this. Before I started any of this almost 3 years ago now, I wrote out who I was, what I am, what I stand for, what are my goals. And every now and then I go back and check that to make sure that I'm still in line with who I said I am, my goals were, and see have I diverted off the course too much. Because sometimes while you're in the heat of doing things, you don't notice that you're going in a different direction. And so part of my process, my regular self-checkups, like a self-checkup, right? You check yourself, is to pause and reflect on what I'm doing, my type of coverage. What is it that I'm saying? Where am I in this? And so today's spot check was the amount of attention that I give Donald Trump. Am I giving Donald Trump too much attention? Am I covering him too much? Am I becoming the the anti-Trumper? And then I started considering what all the things are important to me and all the things that are important to you, the audience, and important to the issues that are of progressivism. And I start going one by one. And I think about, if LGBTQ rights are important to you, then you see how Donald Trump is directly adversely affecting that, particularly with Jeff Sessions. So I'm like, okay, well then LGBTQ rights are important to me because I try to be the best ally that I can be for many reasons that you could read in my book, not plugging the book, but I actually kind of pour into that why it is I'm a straight man, but I'm very, very serious about LGBTQ rights. That's number one, if that's important to you. If you're at all interested in police brutality, we have a president who literally, as the president, hey, Unspoken, thanks for joining me. And you guys fill up the chat room. I want to see your thoughts to anything I'm saying. I look at President Trump and how he has encouraged police officers. As president, he has encouraged police officers to rough up people even more, right? So if police brutality is important to you, how can you not talk about Donald Trump? If Black Lives Matter is important to you, how can you not talk about Trump? But I'm sitting there reflecting today, wondering, am I going off the course of my initial trajectory when I started this, covering Donald Trump too much? And then the thing is, folks, he is, hey, Terry J123. The thing is this is the president of the United States. And so by definition, in the realm of issues that are important to me and quite frankly to you, because you're here on a regular basis, it's almost impossible not to cover Donald Trump to this extent. Because if you're serious about any type of programs, any type of safety nets, Medicare for all, any type of policies that could help us lift up the working class and the average American, the lower middle class, if you're interested in any of those, then Donald Trump's tax policy is directly going to affect us in a very significant way. If you need health care, then it's like we have had 4 major health care fights. 4 major healthcare fights in 9 months. Think about that. And then today I was covering blue slips. I was covering blue slips in the Senate, which is a Senate tradition that allows senators from a particular home state to give commentary on a federal nominee, lower court nominee in their state, a district that is in their state. And blue slips is like a 100-year-old tradition. And, it has been used before. It's not an official rule, but it's been used before by senators, both Republican and Democrat, to either approve of a presidential nominee or to disapprove of one. And the chair of the Judiciary Committee has traditionally recognized whatever the state senator said from that state, for whatever the U.S. Senator said from that state. So it has been used historically as a means of blocking Withholding a blue slip means that you are blocking a nominee. And as I was covering that and speaking, doing interviews about that today, I paused and thought about the filibuster situation with Neil Gorsuch and the fact that they did away with the filibuster. And then in my mind, I just trying to demonstrate something to you. In my mind, I'm like, man, Neil Gorsuch was nominated like a long time ago, like 2 years, a year, 2 years, no, 1 year, nope. Not even a year has gone by since the nomination of Neil Gorsuch and the confirmation of Neil Gorsuch. And you think about just the sheer intensity of all the craziness that has gone on over the last 9 months, 10 months now, rather. And I pause and say, how can I not cover Donald Trump? How can we not? You have to literally go through some mental gymnastics to not cover Donald Trump and to honestly, quite frankly, not cover him from a negative perspective. I think I may have found one thing that he's done in the last 10 months that has been positive, and I can't even think of it off the top of my head. I just remember at least one time that I said something positive about the man. Right. And so you look at, you know what else is important to me? Foreign relations. Foreign policy. You guys know I'm serious about international order and conflicts and war and peace on the international stage. And how can you not cover Donald Trump when he is instigating a fight with North Korea? If the audio's low, I might could push it up a little more. Thanks for giving me the heads up. I had a lot of room that I could push it up some. I apologize. How could you not cover and let me know if it's too loud now. How could you not cover Donald Trump? And how could you not speak about the things that he's doing? So I did the self-reflection today, and I take it very seriously. And I'm thinking, and again, it's not a crisis of conscience by any means. It's not a crisis of conscience by any means. It is my regular self-checkup. And I pause to see, am I doing what I set out to do when I originally started this? And I realized that I would say probably 75% of my coverage has to be about Donald Trump nowadays. And I'm wondering, am I covering Donald Trump too much? And I'm doing that because I simply care about my art form. I care about my professionalism. And the bottom line is, how can you not cover him? So then it moved from a self-reflection to a critique of people who don't say anything about him. I mean, name something that's important to you. You know, exactly. Leslie saying in the chat room, if he attacks North Korea, he will blame it on Obama and Clinton. People are already positioning this to blame Obama and Clinton. But think about, and I want you to write something in the chat room. What's important to you? And I'm not yet going to critique my friends in the progressive media community, but I want to know what's important to you. And I guarantee you, what's important to you is affected directly by Donald Trump, and not just directly, adversely affected by Donald Trump. Somebody said LGBTQ rights. Absolutely. You know, reparations. Good luck on that with Donald Trump, right? Good luck on that with most any president. But specifically, we're so far from the conversation. Foreign policy, line of succession, Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court is important to you, then, you know, it's insane what Donald Trump represents and what he wants to put there. Keeping Social Security, Medicare, people are saying in the chat room, Social Security again, and Medicare, climate change. Literally I can read this sentence straight out from the chat room. Literally every important value policy is under attack by this administration. I could not have said it better. I will applaud. Medicare for all. Now, here's the only thing that I thought of today, Aaron. The only thing I thought of today is that because of how crazy Donald Trump is, and because of how ridiculous Republicans are, they have opened up the conversation on Medicare for all because they continue to point out the problems of Obamacare, but their solution is not correct to the problems of Obamacare. So that has given us an opportunity to show them the solutions to the problem of Obamacare is Medicare for all. So that is the indirect benefit of them being as crazy as they have been. You know what I mean? So in that way, that's the only thing that we have been able, the only ball that we've been able to move forward because of how insane. We would not have been able to move that ball forward if Hillary Clinton had become president. But for everyone who sits back and says, oh, Hillary Clinton would have been worse. I mean, I don't want to hear that anymore, because I think Donald Trump has made it his life mission to make sure that anyone who ever said that eats their words. I think Donald Trump is like, I heard you when you said that, and I'm going to show you just how much more horrible than Hillary Clinton I can be. Public transit and infrastructure. And now, if you look at the budget, what they're offering in the budget, they are seriously gutting everything in order to give tax breaks. What's important to me is tax policy, because like Nancy Pelosi said, and she said it, and one thing I tell you about Nancy Pelosi is that when she says something, she knows how the hell to say it. Like, she says this shit. And she said last week, show me your values, show me your taxes. Let me slow down. Show me your tax policy. Show me your values. Show me what you have in your budget. Show me your values. And that's why tax policy is important to me, because so many across the board, I would add to the other members of the party they are working towards. Right. Okay. Unspoken. Great point. And I'll bring that out in a second. Let me finish this thought. The reason tax policy is so important to me is because it does represent actually what we're going to do. Who's going to get hurt? Who's going to get cut? Who's going to pay the bill? Will the bill be paid at all? Those things are very significant to me, because I know that we can't do any of these programs that we want to do. We can't have Medicare for all with the budget that Donald Trump is proposing and Paul Ryan is proposing. Now, here's the deal. Here's the difference between Donald Trump as an individual and his party. Here's the big difference. Donald Trump has brought chaos. Literal, it is insanity. You have the Secretary of State calling the president a moron. And we find out today the reason he called him a moron is because he wants to increase our nuclear arsenal from 4,000 nukes to 40,000 nukes, a tenfold increase. That, my friends, is chaos. We have literal chaos with the president of the White House, in the White House. But in a sense, that chaos is keeping the Republican Party from being able to move forward. And I don't think it is. A lot of people say Donald Trump is chaotic as a means of a strategy. But no, it's completely backfiring him in many respects. It's backfiring on him in a spectacular way. And all we're left with is a fatigued and exasperated American body politic. Now, the Republican Party, for the most part, they want every single one of these things that we named. They want to get rid of LGBTQ rights. They want to get rid of marriage equality. They want to get all these things. And so this is why when I started this thing off, I started this whole show off to oppose conservatism, specifically conservatism. I evolved quickly into learning how much neoliberalism actually does not move the ball forward on any of the goals that I'm interested in. And this is what I said in the primaries. I said Donald Trump, scratch that. Bernie Sanders represented change. Hillary Clinton represented the status quo. And Donald Trump represented chaos. I think I said it exactly like that during the primaries. And so you realize that that on the things that are important to us, we can't get any progress, very to little, no progress with neoliberals. But now we see with Donald Trump, as many of you knew, and you said it, and I said it, we all said it. I don't care what anybody say. We knew Donald Trump was going to be a chaos agent, an agent of chaos. But we knew Donald Trump was going to take us back in the opposite direction. Not just because he's Donald Trump, but because he's the leader of the Republican Party. The Republican Party wants the majority of what Donald Trump is selling. And this is what's hysterical about it. Donald Trump probably doesn't believe in most of the stuff he pushes. But he's the leader of the party, and whatever somebody brings to him, I told you guys, and I know you knew it, but I'm just saying, I'm preaching to the choir. I told you guys during the primaries that Donald Trump, and during the general election, that Donald Trump is a moron who's going to take whatever Paul Ryan brings to him. And he is literally doing that. He wanted Paul Ryan's plan, and then he wanted this person's plan, and now he's going to take Lindsey Graham's plan. Now they're coming back full circle to Paul Ryan's. He's going to take anything and everything. And so he's going to be nothing but a figurehead who implements everything that the Republican Party wants. And so in my self-reflection today, I'm like, am I covering Donald Trump too much? No, because I have to cover what conservatism is trying to do to America. And he is the leader of the Conservative Party. He's the leader of the Republican Party. And so we have no choice but to cover Donald Trump. We have no choice but to cover Paul Ryan. We have no choice but to cover Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. We have no choice. We have no choice but to cover these things. And so now I shift that into the critique of some of my friends who I love dearly, and I'm not talking about the dumb left. I'm not talking about them. I'm not talking about those people who feel like anyone who's anti-Trump is a part of a CIA deep state conspiracy to undo democracy, because that's literally where a part of the left has gone. I'm not talking about them. They are not my friends. They are our adversaries, to be quite frank with you. But you know, in terms of some of my friends who I see not covering Trump at all. And I wonder, like, how, and not covering the GOP at all, not covering some of these major bills, you know, not even speaking about health care. Like, a lot of people almost lost their health care. A lot of people almost lost their health care. And the only reason they still have it is probably because of how much chaos there is. Right. But then I have progressives who don't speak of those things, and they're still focused on, you know, the primaries. Not putting their money where that comment went too fast. I wonder if I touch this, will they stay longer? Nope. The comments don't stay longer. Unfortunately, I have to read the comments. So the shorter your comments, the better today, folks, because once they go away, I can't read them all. Maybe I can open it up on another window over here and have your comments up as well. But to finish that thought, you know, a lot of people who don't cover these things, and I'm wondering, I'm going to take this now. How many of these can I take so I can go to sleep and get rid of this headache that I've had all day long? But a lot of progressives who don't even cover these important things because they're focused on neoliberalism. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't talk about neoliberalism. I think the most important thing that group says that I'm describing, I won't name because they are actually my friends and I haven't talked to them one-on-one, but when I talk to you guys, you know how I do it. I talk to people one-on-one first, and then I'll say it publicly. I'll call their name out publicly. But you know, the one thing that they say in that group that I agree with still is that once we get rid of this maniac, Donald Trump, we cannot allow the status quo to remain the status quo, right? We can't allow us to just be comfortable with a corporate Democrat as if everything is better just because we got a corporate Democrat back into office. Because realistically, in 2020, we're talking about a corporate Democrat. We don't have a successor to Bernie Sanders' revolution. All we have are corporate Democrats that we've been able to push to the left a little bit, right? So, you know, but the thing is, once they get back into power, everything doesn't get better just because they're in power. Like, when they get back in power, we have to maintain all of that energy and fight them like never before. You know, we have to fight them and push back. I wonder, does this actually, I didn't set it up for phone calls, but I might be able to take this phone call in a second. So stay there, 609. And so, you know, that's the one thing I agree with the most is that they say is that once, you know, we cannot be so comfortable with corporate Democrats that everything is better. Kind of like Republicans right now. They really believe everything is better just because Donald Trump is in office. And I'm like, you guys are absolutely out of your goddamn minds. This is fucking chaos. But they feel just because they have a Republican in power, everything is back to normal. Everything is good. And that's so far from the truth. We have to make sure that when corporate Democrats get into office, yes, a lot of things will be better. Hell, everything will be better because we won't have the goddamn chaos agent in there, and we won't have Republicans shoving down all these policies that are detrimental to us. It will be better, but we can't stop there. We have to push further once they get back into power. And I think that's one thing that some of my friends who don't really cover Donald Trump, what they say that is absolutely true. Okay, that being said, at the same time, God damn it, where do we not need all hands on deck right now? policy by policy, not really a anti-Trump as if somebody else is going to be better. Here's what would be better if we actually got rid of Trump. If Trump was impeached, forget about Russia, forget about the collusion, forget about all that stuff, man. You let that be what it's going to be. I don't really care. Whatever that's going to be, it's going to be. But, if Donald Trump gets, indicted for tax evasion or whatever reason we could get rid of Trump. The reality of it is that the agenda that we're having to push against right now, every single day, will still be there in the form of Vice President Mike Pence, now President Mike Pence. We're very clear on that. But can we be clear on something else, though? We have had nothing but nonstop battle, chaos. Nuclear threat here, nuclear threat there, attacking Syria, with Tomahawk missiles in March, threatening to rain down nuclear fire like the world has never seen in May, wanting to escalate or increase our nuclear arsenal by tenfold in August. I'm like, holy Jesus, can we get a day? Can we get a day without complete and utter chaos shaking up in the most negative ways our system? That's the only benefit of getting rid of Donald Trump. That's the only benefit, because every policy by policy, it's going to be the same agenda, because Donald Trump is getting his agenda right from the Republican Party. So getting rid of Donald Trump is not a means of us getting a better path to better policy over the next 4 years. No, man, we're stuck in this fight. We are stuck in this fight against conservatism like never before. We are in the fight of our progressive lives right now for the next 3 years and 3 months. That's where we are, right? We're in that fight. And that doesn't end with Vice President Pence taking over after Donald Trump is impeached. I really want to know if this is working, guy, because I didn't really set up for it. But caller, you are here. You're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and/or question? Uh-oh. Okay, but I have you unmuted and I have you ready to talk, but you have the radio on in the background. You have your computer on, playing in the background. All right, so they disconnected. All right, so I didn't really set up for it, but I am willing to try one more caller because I'm looking at my setup and technically it should work just fine. But 857-600-0518. If not, I can still read your comments. And I wanted to do this show because I promised to do this show. And this is as good as time as any to share with you these reflections. Ben, you are right. They have been doing a good job of pushing their agenda. Right. This is what they do. This is what they're going to do with Mike Pence as president. But I tell you, man, we see what America we see exactly how bad America could get with the wrong person, with the crazy person in the White House. Right. One thing Donald Trump has exposed is the weakness of American democracy, because the power of the president is so unique in that really the only people that can hold him accountable is the majority party in power. And Donald Trump has exposed the weakness of American democracy because he is a result of years of media and years of Fox News and propaganda, years of culminated by all the media outlets from the New York Times to MSNBC to everybody getting some great ratings because of this madman on the media, right? But Donald Trump has exposed ultimately the weakness of American democracy in that one person has almost unlimited power that's only limited by the majority party in the Congress. And if that party happens to be his own, then you can have a person like Donald Trump who carries himself in a manner that is detrimental to the fabric of America. See, Barack Obama was the exact opposite of Donald Trump. And people like to say, oh, Donald Trump being the way he is getting stuff done. No, Donald Trump isn't getting anything done. And normally I would say that's all the more reason for us to leave him here, because for 4 years he could just sit there and not get anything done. But I don't know if the fabric of American society can actually stand, like survive the next 4 years. Like Donald Trump makes his day. He gets off on divisiveness. In terms of divisiveness, that is what drives him. You know, and that particular phrase is just dawning on me. He thrives on divisiveness. And he has a unique, uncanny ability and a position and the method in which he utilizes the presidency to divide us to a point of irrepair. I think that's a word. Irreparable damage. And he is the exact opposite of President Obama, to the extent that President Obama got on our nerves. Still a little upset with some of the stuff that President Obama would not address. Right. A lot of the things that President Obama would just not get involved in. He would never take a hard position for the left. He would never take a hard position for Black Lives Matter. He would always equivocate in some manner to try to pacify both sides. That's because Barack Obama actually believed that he was the president of all the United States. You know, the cliche of all the United States. I'm not the president of the brown, blue states or the red states. I'm the president of the United States of America, that kind of thing. And he used to drive me mad. I'm like, man, no, be the president we need for a minute. Donald Trump has come in to become the president of his base. He is the president of the alt-right states of America. That is all he's focused on. He's only interested in pleasing them. Now, they should be extremely pissed off with him, infuriated, because he's not getting anything done. But in terms of what he says from his pulpit, he's pleasing them every single day. And he does not care that what he says is divisive and harmful to an entire half of the voting electorate, the body politic in general. And so that's a unique difference between he and Barack Obama that actually matters. I think people don't realize how much these things matter. A lot of people are dismissing the NFL protest as merely culture wars. But do you understand that the president of the United States is trying to make a permanent mark such that a person who wants to protest in their own quiet fashion won't be able to do it without losing everything? He's not just attacking the players. He's attacking ESPN hosts. They're actually saying from ESPN that people should be fired. I mean, this stuff really matters because a lot of the things that happen in America happen by norms and customs. And a lot of things that don't happen in America don't happen because of norms and customs. What do I mean by that? Oh, Steph Curry. He can text Steph Curry of all people. You know, what do I mean by that? What I just said. I mean that if we are not in the streets burning flags every day on a regular basis, that's because it is a custom and a norm for us not to. Not that it's illegal, not that we don't have a constitutional right to do so, but we just feel that it's unacceptable in the collective body. It's like something that we're not necessarily going to do. We can, but we won't. And Donald Trump is changing. He wants more than anything else to change that. He wants to change that norms where while you can protest the national anthem based on a Supreme Court decision, I believe in 1948, you won't. You know why? Because it would be shunned and frowned upon so badly by everybody that you might actually get punished for it. That culture war thing, that particular thing right there matters. Let's take this caller. Let's try one more time. Caller, make sure your internet is turned down. I want to hear your name, comment, and or question. Go for it.
Hi, my name is Jim.
Hey, Jim. How's it going, man?
How's it going? I think it's just a matter of perspective. Sometimes we don't even know what we need to protest about. A really good case in point is that when they were talking about college for all, when Bernie was talking about college for all, it was going to cost us $70 billion a year, right?
Yep.
Under Trump, we just raised the military budget by $80 billion a year. And in 2015, there was an audit done to the military fund where they pretty much lost $120 billion.
Right, I saw that. Mm-hmm.
So So we can throw $200 billion basically into the trash, but we can't give kids college.
Yep. That sounds right to me. That sounds exactly where we are. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you have anything else to say about it because you hit the nail on the head. Go for it. Finish up. Get the last word.
Yeah, I just feel like, and this whole thing about protesting, it makes me sick because the whole thing about the anthem was a part of an ad deal with the military.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back in 2009.
So it has nothing to do with patriotism.
Not at all.
It has to do with just making money and capitalism.
Absolutely.
And not for nothing, I had tweeted this before. If you're going to fight for a flag and not what it represents, which is someone kneeling down and protesting and having the right to do that, then what are you defending?
Absolutely. Hey, man, thanks so much for the call. I appreciate it. 857-600-0518. I'll let you guys get the last word on tonight as I get ready to take it in. I got one more thing to do before I go to bed, but, hey, that's the life we live here. But, yeah, that's the truth. I mean, if you're going to protest, you can, add on, not to negate whatsoever the reason that Colin Kaepernick protests. But this is another thing that we can add on to what we need to be speaking about. Right, the glaring hypocrisy with the budgets that Donald Trump has proposed and the actual things that we've signed off on, increasing the military budget way beyond what they even asked for. But back to Donald Trump in general and the Republican Party in general and the chaos that has been around us nonstop. It's a level that has to be spoken about. I'm sorry. I don't even know how I have to explain this. I'm only talking about it because I went through a moment of self-reflection and saying, Ben, am I covering Donald Trump too much? Should I be talking more about neoliberalism? And I'm like, no, I'm not covering Donald Trump too much. And neoliberalism is a problem, but neoliberalism is only in power to the extent that conservatism is in power. And conservatism does utilize neoliberalism, and it's just on coke. It's like on steroids. It's like magnified to the nth degree, so to that extent, you talk about neoliberalism, but you have to talk about it in context of the policies that are getting ready to be jammed down our throat right now. Right. So no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump too much. All right, caller, you're my last caller, man, because I've taken these what's your name coming in a question? Hey, what's happening?
This is Elise from Oakland.
Hey.
I wanted to just add to the conversation about whether you're commenting too much on Donald Trump, and I'll try to make it short because I get headaches and I know how that is. I think you don't cover him too much, but I wonder if the way to cover him is to cover him through what's going on with his federal agencies. And the reason I say that is because, Scott Pruitt will do something, and all of a sudden everybody will run and say, oh, my God, and Scott Pruitt is doing this. This is his administration. So in other words, it allows us to really focus on sort of agency decisions that are heavily impacting people's lives. Same thing with Jeff Sessions. And so that we don't get stuck on, one, personality stuff with Trump. Two, we keep our eye on the ball.
Yeah, I like that.
What's happening in terms of federal policies.
Yeah. And
three, we just sort of we still are critiquing him and what he's trying to do, but we're doing it through how it's impacting everyday lives.
Yeah.
And so that it's not so much a distraction to talk about his tweets and all this other stuff, but it is a way to refocus it so that we're not we don't end up reducing it to personality or to his everyday actions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
If we're talking about Jeff Sessions, it shouldn't be just a conversation about Jeff Sessions. It should be a conversation about Jeff Sessions as Trump's guy.
Absolutely.
And then to sort of come at it that way.
For sure.
And still be able to address his tweets and everything else that he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this your first time calling in?
No, I've called in some other times, but I have a 4-year-old, and sometimes she's not in bed.
No. I recognize your voice, but I didn't recognize your name. I'm better with voices than I am with names. But be sure to call back in again. I really appreciate that comment. Thanks so much for it.
I sure will. Thank
Absolutely.
you for your show.
Oh, my pleasure. Actually, I lied. 857-600-0518. I got time for one more call. I agree. You know, if you actually go policy by policy, agency by agency, you see what they're doing to us, man. It's crazy. I'm wondering, is that? God, that stuff works fast. It's crazy what they're doing to us. And there's just so much to discuss. And I'm just, you know, I'm on this side of the argument now. It's like, well, why aren't you covering these issues? How are we not talking about what the EPA is doing? Like the caller said, how are we not talking about, what Jeff Sessions is doing with the Department of Justice? How are we not talking about what Tom Price is gone, but HHS, you know, why are we not talking about those things? How can you focus on the primaries still and what Hillary Clinton has done wrong and not talk about the things that are happening to the LGBTQ community and happening to our Native community and happening to the Black community? I honestly feel like the bottom line is this. I know everybody has their role, everybody has their niche, and everybody has their focal point. But I think it's important for us to be able to come up for air from our niche, that thing that we're super good at, and look at how everyone is being affected by Republicans in power, Republicans in complete power. And particularly how we're affected by the chaos that's being caused by Donald Trump. I think I'm going to sign off because I think those sleeping pills kicked in faster than a mug, or maybe I'm just tired like that anyway. So, folks, hey, thanks for hanging out with me on this late night episode. We can't hang on. Tony said we can't criticize the neoliberals much when the Republicans are destroying everything good about this country. Absolutely, I agree. I mean, don't get me wrong. We can criticize them. But what's the point? What's the point of putting all your energy in criticizing, you know, Cory Booker? Cory Booker is trying to stop the repeal. Cory Booker's trying to stop the repeal and replace of Obamacare in favor of Trump care. And, you know, and so what's the point? There is no point. So anyway, everybody, you have a good night. I'll see you next time.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.